I'm Ingrid Fairbanks Webb, 34 years old. 4 years back, the evening before Mother's Day, I learned I'd been deleted from my family, kicked out of our WhatsApp group like a ghost, like I never existed. My mother's words to my siblings cut deep: all my kids have made it except Ingrid. She picked a worthless teaching job. She's not my daughter anymore. I stayed silent. No tears, no angry phone calls. I vanished exactly how she demanded. But my mother had no clue that 4 years down the line, I'd be on stage facing 500 people while the Virginia governor congratulated me, and she'd be watching from her seat, unwanted, hoping for attention she'd never receive. Before we dive deeper, hit that like and subscribe button, but only if this hits home for you. Where are you right now? What's the time there? Let's go back to square one. The moment I lost the family I believed was mine and started creating the one I truly earned. Growing up, everyone called the Fairbanks family absolutely flawless. My mother, Margaret Fairbanks, left her regional bank manager position at 55, not for rest, but to claim her spot at Westbrook Country Club. The membership cost more than what I made yearly. She treated her Hermes scarves like shields, draped perfectly across her shoulders, always in quiet shades that suggested wealth, though our fortune was barely one generation deep. My sister Victoria was the prized possession, 38, a plastic surgeon in Richmond serving local TV personalities and wives of politicians. She'd post pictures of her Rolex casually placed on restaurant counters, her flawless nails gripping champagne glasses at fancy fundraisers. Each Thanksgiving brought updates on her latest adjustments, though we all noticed the tightening near her eyes, the fuller lips appearing annually. Then came Bradley, 40, a corporate attorney in D.C., driving a Mercedes G-Wagon he strategically positioned where everyone could see at family events. His wife Carolyn hoarded designer purses like others collect coins, systematically, intensely, constantly hunting the next exclusive release. And me, Ingrid, the baby, the misfit in the family lineup. I taught 4th grade at Maple Creek Elementary, a tiny school nestled in farmland roughly 90 miles from my mother's spotless colonial home. My Honda Civic had seen 12 years. My place could squeeze inside Victoria's closet, but nobody mentioned this at those club lunches. My mother boasted about 2 accomplished kids, a doctor and an attorney. Never 3. I didn't pick teaching because nothing else worked. After high school, I had a 4.1 GPA plus a complete scholarship for pre-med at UVA, Victoria's exact path from 10 years earlier. My mother already bought the future doctor sticker for her vehicle. She'd announced it to her club circle. The story was written. But that summer, I volunteered at a reading camp for struggling children in our area. This kid, Marcus Jr., 8 years old, barely reading at 1st grade level, labeled slow his entire life. Come August, he was flying through chapter books. When he completed Charlotte's Web alone, his hug nearly crushed my ribs. That instant changed everything. I phoned my mother that evening about declining the pre-med offer. I'd study education instead. I wanted elementary teaching. The quiet pause lasted 17 seconds. I tracked it. "You're destroying everything," she eventually responded. "For what?" "Government wages and thankless brats." She skipped my college graduation. Claimed a scheduling problem, some garden event at the club that weekend. Victoria mailed a card containing $50 and a message saying, "Best wishes with your small career." I deposited the money. Groceries weren't optional, but those underlying words stayed with me. "You picked incorrectly. You settled for less. We'll make sure you remember. I didn't choose poverty. I chose purpose." To my mother, both meant identical things. The rejection crept in gradually, like mold spreading through forgotten corners. Thanksgiving 2019. I brought homemade sweet potato casserole to my mother's place. Her beloved recipe, the one Grandma Ruth always prepared. Walking into the dining area, my name card sat at the tiny folding table in the corner. The setup for Victoria's stepkids and Bradley's baby nephew. "Oh, sweetie, we simply didn't have space at the main table," my mother explained, fixing her pearl earrings. "You're fine with it, right? You're wonderful with little ones." I was 30. Christmas brought worse treatment. I dedicated 3 weeks knitting my mother a cashmere scarf in her preferred dove gray shade. Opening it, she lifted it briefly, smiled thinly, commenting, "How handmade." Then she focused on Victoria, who'd given her a Chanel clutch and consumed the next 20 minutes praising the stitching, the fixtures, the quality. My scarf landed in the coat area. I discovered it 2 months later, untouched in tissue paper, the tags I'd removed stuffed back in. But the crushing blow arrived on her birthday, early 2020. I called asking about dinner timing. Oh, Ingrid, she replied, voice thick with manufactured sympathy. The restaurant had just 6 available spots. Your father, Bradley, and Carolyn, Victoria with her date. You get it, correct? Family matters most. 6 spots. Somehow I didn't qualify as family for one. But everything, the corner table, the ignored scarf, the restaurant without room, nothing prepared me for what followed. The single family member treating me like I mattered was my cousin Rachel. She was 24 then. My Aunt Patricia's child, 8 years my junior, newly graduated and starting her first marketing position in Charlottesville. We'd connected since childhood. I'd watched her weekends, brought her to libraries, assisted with schoolwork when her parents fought constantly. Rachel noticed pain others missed, even hidden pain. The evening before Mother's Day 2020, my phone rang at 11:47 p.m. Rachel's name appeared. Answering, her voice trembled. Ingrid, I need to share something. I wasn't sure I should, but you deserve knowing. My chest tightened. What's wrong? Look at your WhatsApp, the family group. I opened the app, found Fairbanks Family Dinner, the group my mother created 3 years back for holiday planning. I wasn't there anymore. Rachel, I'm not. I know they removed you. Your mom told Victoria last week, but she only did it tonight. Rachel's voice broke. Ingrid, I'm truly sorry. I screenshot everything. Sending it now, my phone buzzed, one image, another. I stared at those words frozen digitally. Something inside went completely still. Why tell me this? I whispered. Because you're my family, Rachel answered. Even if they've decided otherwise, I saved those screenshots in a folder labeled proof. I didn't realize I'd need them. I just couldn't let those words vanish. I examined that screenshot 47 times that night. Not from confusion, I understood perfectly. I kept searching for some loophole, some phrase meaning something different, some context softening the impact. Nothing existed. The message came from my mother, posted in the family group at 8:32 p.m. Reminder, Mother's Day dinner at the Jefferson, 7 p.m. sharp. All my children attending. All my successful children. Ingrid picked a worthless teaching job. She's not my daughter anymore. Please don't say her name tomorrow. Below it, Victoria responded with a heart emoji. Just a heart. No objection, no pause. Bradley's reply, understood mom, 2 words, my worth to my brother. 2 words and complete acceptance. I sat on my bed edge in my small studio, phone gripped tight, and tears wouldn't come. God, I wanted them. I wanted collapsing, screaming into pillows, calling my mother demanding answers. But what would change, she'd decided. She'd announced it like a press statement. Ingrid isn't ours anymore, and everyone agreed. I stayed awake until 2:00 a.m., studying those messages, checking timestamps, noticing nobody, not my father, not my aunt, nobody questioned it. Rachel alone thought to warn me. By sunrise, I'd decided myself. If my mother wanted me gone, I'd vanish entirely on my terms. But I wouldn't forget and I wouldn't delete those screenshots. Some evidence stays forever. Mother's Day morning arrived in silence. No calls, no texts, no uncomfortable "we miss you, wish you were here" from Victoria. Nothing. First time in 30 years I skipped sending my mother flowers. Didn't call wishing happy day. Didn't drive 90 miles sitting at corner tables while she pretended I didn't exist. I made coffee. Graded papers. Walked along the creek behind my complex watching water catch morning sunlight. And considered my options. I could call her, confront her, demand explanations, ask why teaching made me unworthy of love. I could screenshot her message, post it publicly. Let everyone see what mother raises: a doctor, attorney, and a throwaway daughter. I could appear at the Jefferson uninvited, create drama, force acknowledgement of my existence. But what would any accomplish? My mother made her choice. She picked status over her child. She picked country club opinions over the daughter who'd loved her 3 decades. If she wanted me disappeared, I'd give exactly that. Not because she demanded it, because I chose it. I blocked her number that afternoon, then Victoria's, then Bradley's. Deleted Instagram, avoiding their perfect family photos. I didn't know my silence would stretch 4 years. Didn't know those years would transform everything. All I knew then was this. I wouldn't beg for love from people viewing me as reputation damage. The world continued spinning and the Fairbanks family kept pretending I never belonged. 6 months after that Mother's Day, Rachel called with unrequested updates. Thanksgiving photos posted, she said quietly. Victoria shared them an hour back. I told myself don't look. Lasted 3 hours. The image showed my mother heading her formal dining table, Victoria and Bradley flanking her, their spouses arranged perfectly behind. Crystal stemware caught light. A huge turkey glistened centrally. The caption stated, "Thankful for my incredible family. Mom, you raised us perfectly." 3 people, not 4. My chair wasn't empty. They'd simply reorganized like the table always seated 6 instead of 8. By Christmas, I'd stopped torturing myself with social media, but Rachel still called. Your mom tells everyone you're doing volunteer work in Africa. She explained, some education nonprofit, very respected. Can't return home because you're changing lives overseas. I laughed, the harsh kind, scraping your throat. She's lying, covering up, disowning me. She's lying so nobody asks questions, so she doesn't admit kicking out her daughter for teaching. Rachel paused. Ingrid, she told Mrs. Patterson at the club you were nominated for some international teaching award in Kenya. I hadn't left Virginia in 3 years. That's when understanding hit. My mother didn't hate me. She hated what my existence revealed about her. So she'd created a version she could brag about. A humanitarian hero, conveniently unreachable. The real me, teaching 4th grade 90 miles away. I was already dead to them. I met Marcus Webb on a Tuesday in October, surrounded by pumpkins and laughing 9-year-olds. His farm, Webb Family Organics, was locally famous. 50 acres of rolling hills, heritage vegetables, a small orchard where families picked apples annually and photographed against the red barn. I'd brought my 4th graders on a field trip learning sustainable agriculture. Marcus waited by the tractor when our bus arrived, tall, wide-shouldered, with gentle eyes and soil permanently under his nails. He shook my hand saying, "You must be Miss Fairbanks. My daughter talks about you constantly." His daughter was Lily, 5 years old, golden curls and a glacier-melting smile. She attended my colleague's kindergarten class, but I tutored her twice weekly after her mother died from cancer the previous year. Lily is an amazing kid, I told him. Brilliant, curious about everything. Something shifted in his expression, gratitude maybe, or recognizing a kindred spirit. She says you're her favorite teacher in the entire school, even though you're not technically her teacher. He smiled, her exact words. That field trip became a phone call. The phone call became coffee. Coffee became a picnic under the old oak tree on his property where Marcus asked about my family, and I spoke truthfully. I don't have one, I said, or they decided they don't have me. He didn't press for details. He didn't push. He just handed me a slice of apple pie his late wife's mother taught him to make and said, "Family isn't always blood, Ingrid. Sometimes it's the people who appear when everyone else disappears." That moment started my belief. 2 years passed like pages turning in a book I was finally writing myself. In 2022, Marcus and I married. Not at a country club, not with 300 guests and a massive cake. We exchanged vows under the oak tree where we'd had our first real talk with Lily as our flower girl and a handful of friends who'd become family. I officially adopted Lily that same year. The day paperwork finalized, she handed me a crayon drawing of 3 stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun. On the bottom, in shaky kindergarten letters, she'd written, "My mom, my dad, me." I keep that drawing in my work desk. Some days when the world feels overwhelming, I pull it out remembering what matters. I completed my master's in educational leadership through night classes and summer sessions, typing papers at 11 p.m. after Lily slept, studying during lunch breaks, determined proving ambition didn't require abandoning students I loved. When an assistant principal position opened at Maple Creek Elementary, I applied. The interview panel consisted of 3 school board members, including Marcus, who recused himself from voting. I got the job regardless. Through everything, I stayed invisible. No social media, no press releases, no proud announcements to the family that erased me. Somewhere in Richmond, my mother still told people I was saving children in Africa. Somewhere in D.C., Bradley still pretended he'd never had a second sister. Somewhere online, Victoria posted family dinner photos at tables never having space for me. They had zero idea who I'd become, and I wasn't ready revealing it. Not yet. The phone call came on a Thursday afternoon in March 2024. Mrs. Fairbanks Webb. The voice was formal, precise. "This is Diana Chen. Apologies, Diana Morrison from the Virginia Department of Education. The board reviewed your application, and I'm delighted informing you that you've been selected as the new Superintendent of Schools for Clark County." I sat on my desk edge, my legs suddenly wobbly. Superintendent, the position I'd applied for randomly, never believing I'd actually be considered. Overseeing 12 schools, 4,000 students, 200 teachers. Are you cert? I managed. Your track record speaks volumes. Literacy rates up 18% in 3 years. Teacher retention the highest regionally. The mentorship program you developed is being adopted statewide. A pause. Dr. Hart specifically recommended you. She said you were the finest educator she'd ever worked with. Eleanor Hart, my mentor from my first teaching year, now the state education commissioner. I hadn't spoken to her in months. The announcement hit local papers 2 weeks later. Local teacher rises to superintendent. A small headline in the Shenandoah Valley Voice, complete with my photo from the school district website. I didn't think anyone in my family would notice. I was wrong. Rachel called that evening breathless. "Ingrid, your sister just posted that article in the family group chat with the caption, 'Isn't this our Ingrid?'" My stomach tightened. What did my mother say? Nothing. She hasn't replied. But Rachel hesitated. "I was at Aunt Patricia's when it happened. Your mom called Victoria immediately. I could hear her through the phone." Ingrid, she was furious. Furious that I got the job. Furious that she didn't know. Furious that she's been telling everyone you're in Africa and now there's proof you've been here the whole time. The email arrived 3 days later. The subject line read, "From your mother." I almost deleted it unread. Almost. "My dearest Ingrid," it began. "I saw the wonderful news about your promotion. I always knew you had it in you. We should meet for lunch soon. I'd love to hear about everything you've accomplished. Mother's Day is coming up. It would mean so much to have the whole family together again." No apology, no acknowledgement of the 4 years of silence, no mention of the WhatsApp message that shattered me, just an invitation as if nothing happened, as if I'd simply been away on a long trip and was now welcome to return. I didn't respond. 2 weeks later, my phone rang from an unknown number. Against better judgment, I answered. "Ing, it's Victoria." Her voice was honeyed, warm, a tone I hadn't heard since childhood. "I know it's been a while, but I wanted to reach out personally. Mom hasn't been feeling well and she's been asking about you. She really wants to see you. What's wrong with her? Just stress. You know how she gets. But she misses you, Ingrid. We all do. I called Rachel that night. Is my mother sick?" Rachel snorted. She was at the spa yesterday. Posted a selfie in the eucalyptus steam room. A beat. "Ingrid, they're not reaching out because they miss you. They're reaching out because you made the news. I already knew, but hearing Rachel confirm it made the truth settle into my bones. Can I ask you something? Have you ever received one of those reconciliation calls? The kind where you can hear the insincerity dripping through the phone? If you know exactly what I'm talking about, comment yes below. And if you want to know what I did next, keep watching because what happened at that awards ceremony, even I didn't see it coming. I wish I could tell you I was strong every single day, that I never wavered, never questioned, never lay awake at 3:00 a.m. wondering if I was the villain in my own story. But that wouldn't be the truth. The doubts crept in slowly after that phone call from Victoria. At work, colleagues kept congratulating me. The superintendent announcement had spread through the county like wildfire. Everyone wanted to shake my hand, ask about my plans, share how proud they were. And then came the questions I dreaded. "Your parents must be over the moon," my assistant principal said one morning, beaming. "I bet your mom is bragging to everyone at church." I smiled, nodded, changed the subject. That night, I sat at the kitchen table while Marcus washed dishes and Lily did her homework at the counter. The silence felt heavier than usual. "You're somewhere else," Marcus said without turning around. "Talk to me." I pressed my palms against my eyes. "Victoria called, said Mom's been asking about me, that she misses me." I looked up at him. "What if I'm wrong, Marcus? What if I've been too harsh? She's still my mother. Maybe I should have what?" He dried his hands, turned to face me. "Called her back, gone to dinner, pretended the last 4 years didn't happen. I don't know," my voice cracked. "I just keep thinking everyone forgives family, right? That's what you're supposed to do. What if I'm the bad guy here?" Marcus didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked to the office, disappeared for a moment, and returned with his laptop. "I want to show you something," he said. "Something I've been saving for a moment exactly like this." Marcus set the laptop on the table and opened a folder labeled Ingrid, Do Not Delete. Inside were files I'd almost forgotten existed. The first, a screenshot of my mother's WhatsApp message, the one Rachel had sent me 4 years ago. The timestamp glowed in the corner. May 9th, 2020, 8:32 p.m. The words hadn't changed. "I no longer see her as my daughter." The second, my mother's email from 2 weeks ago. "My dearest Ingrid, no apology, no acknowledgement." The third, a photo from Victoria's Instagram, Thanksgiving 2020. The family portrait with the empty space where I should have been. The caption, "Mom, you raised us right." I saved everything, Marcus said quietly. Every message Rachel forwarded, every photo that showed up online. I backed it all up to the cloud with timestamps and metadata because I knew this day would come. He sat across from me. "I knew there'd be a moment when you'd forget why you walked away, when you'd start wondering if you were the one who failed." I stared at the screen, at the evidence of my own erasure, and felt something shift inside me. You didn't fail, Marcus continued. You survived. You built a life. You became someone not despite them, but without them. He reached across the table and took my hand. You don't owe forgiveness to people who never asked for it. You only owe yourself the truth. I closed the laptop slowly. Rachel sent you something else, I said. What is it? Marcus hesitated. Are you sure you want to see? I nodded. He pulled up one more screenshot. A new message from the family group chat dated just yesterday, and when I read it, everything became clear. The screenshot was from the Fairbanks family group chat, the one I'd been removed from 4 years ago. My mother's message glowed on the screen, dated the day before. Wonderful news. Ingrid is being honored at the State Teacher of the Year ceremony next month. It will be televised. I've already confirmed our attendance. We'll arrive early, sit in the family section, and join her on stage for photos. Victoria, wear your red Valentino. Bradley, bring Carolyn. This is an opportunity to show everyone that the Fairbanks family stands together. Victoria's response, already picked out my dress. Should I bring flowers? Bradley, I'll clear my schedule. Good PR move. Not a single person had asked if I wanted them there. Not a single message mentioned reconciliation, an apology, or even a private conversation before showing up at the biggest moment of my career. They're planning to hijack your ceremony, Marcus said, his voice tight with controlled anger. Walk in like nothing happened. Pose for cameras. Take credit. I read the messages again, slower this time. My mother's words echoed in my head. This is an opportunity, not I miss my daughter, not I was wrong. An opportunity to fix her reputation, to reclaim the narrative. To stand beside me in my moment of triumph and pretend she'd been there all along. They don't want me back, I said, the realization settling cold and final in my chest. They want the version of me they can show off. Marcus nodded. So, what are you going to do? I looked at the screenshot one last time, at my mother's careful orchestration, my siblings' eager compliance, the complete absence of anything resembling remorse. I'm going to let them come, I said quietly. And then I'm going to tell the truth. We gathered around the kitchen table that night, Marcus, Rachel on video call, and me, like generals planning a campaign. You could uninvite them, Rachel suggested. Call security, have them removed if they try to enter. Then I'm the villain, I said. The ungrateful daughter who barred her own mother from her award ceremony. That's the story they'll tell everyone. So what's the alternative? Marcus asked. Let them waltz in and pretend they've been supporting you this whole time. I'd been thinking about this for hours, running scenarios, weighing options. No, I said finally, I let them come. I don't cause a scene beforehand. I don't warn them or confront them. I took a breath. And then when I give my acceptance speech in front of 500 educators, television cameras, and the governor of Virginia, I thank my family. Rachel's face on the screen went still. Ingrid, I thank my family, I repeated. My husband Marcus, who believed in me when no one else did. My daughter Lily, who taught me what unconditional love looks like. And that's it. That's the whole list. Silence hung in the air. You're not going to mention them at all, Marcus said slowly. Why would I? They're not my family. They made that clear 4 years ago. I pulled up the screenshot of my mother's WhatsApp message on my phone. I don't need to expose them. I don't need to read this out loud. I just need to not include them. The absence will speak for itself. And if your mother tries to come on stage anyway, Rachel asked. I smiled, the first real smile I'd felt in days. Then I'll remind her very politely that I'm simply honoring the boundaries she set. She said I wasn't her daughter anymore. I'm just taking her at her word. Dr. Alina Hart called me 3 days before the ceremony. Ingrid, we need to talk. Her voice carried the no-nonsense directness I remembered from my first year teaching when she'd been the principal who'd taken a chance on a nervous 22-year-old fresh out of college. Something's come up. I braced myself. What happened? Someone contacted the ceremony coordinator last week. A woman named Margaret Fairbanks said she was your mother. Alina paused. She requested to speak during the family remarks portion of the program, wanted to say a few words about raising you. My grip tightened on the phone. She did what? The coordinator passed the request to me since I'm giving the introduction speech. I turned it down. Another pause. Heavier this time. Ingrid, I don't know the full story of your family situation. You've never told me and I've never asked, but I know you. I've watched you work for 15 years and I know that if you wanted your mother involved, you would have mentioned her yourself. I exhaled slowly. Thank you, Alina. I'm introducing you on that stage, she continued. And I'm going to talk about your achievements, your dedication, your 15 years of changing children's lives. Not your family name, not who raised you, just what you've built with your own hands. She softened. You earned this, Ingrid. Nobody gets to rewrite that story but you. When I hung up, Marcus was watching me from the doorway. Your mother tried to get on stage. Eleanor blocked her. He shook his head slowly, not in disbelief, in confirmation of everything he already knew about the woman who'd discarded me. She really thinks she can just walk back in, he said. She thinks she deserves to, I replied. That's the difference. The night before the ceremony, I sat at the kitchen table with a blank notepad, a cup of chamomile tea, and the weight of 4 years pressing against my chest. Lily had gone to bed an hour ago, her small hand waving from the doorway. Good luck tomorrow, Mom, you're going to be amazing. Marcus was in the living room giving me space to write. He understood that some words needed to be found alone. I stared at the blank page. I would like to thank, my pen hovered. Who did I thank? My colleagues, obviously. Dr. Hart, the board members who'd believed in me, the students who'd made every early morning and late night worth it. And then what? I thought about my mother, about the woman who'd hosted country club luncheons while telling her friends I was saving children in Africa, who'd erased me from family photos like airbrushing out a blemish, who was at this very moment probably laying out her outfit, practicing her proud mother's smile, rehearsing whatever speech Eleanor had already denied her. I started writing. I want to thank my family, the family I chose, and the family that chose me back. My husband Marcus, who saw me when I was invisible. My daughter Lily, who taught me that love isn't something you earn, it's something you give freely. I put down the pen. That was enough. That was everything. No mention of the Fairbanks name, no acknowledgement of the people who'd announced my exile in a group chat. Just the truth. The family in my speech was the family that had actually shown up. Done. Marcus asked from the doorway. Done, I said. Tomorrow I would stand in front of 500 people, and for the first time in 4 years I would let my silence speak. The Virginia state capitol had never looked more imposing. I'd seen photos of the building my whole life. Thomas Jefferson's neoclassical design, the white columns, the dome that seemed to touch the sky. But standing at the entrance in my navy blue dress, Marcus on my arm, and Lily holding my hand, I felt like I was walking into history. The ceremony was being held in the House chamber. 500 chairs arranged in precise rows, each one filled with educators from every corner of the state, principals, teachers, school board members, superintendents like me who'd spent their careers in classrooms before ascending to offices and cameras. 3 news crews, including a live feed to the Department of Education's website. I signed in at the registration table. A volunteer handed me my badge. Ingrid Fairbanks Webb, 2024 Virginia State Teacher of the Year. Congratulations, she said warmly. Your family must be so proud. I smiled. They are. We took our seats in the front row, reserved for honorees and their immediate families. Lily sat between Marcus and me, her legs swinging beneath her chair, too short to reach the floor. She wore the dress we'd picked out together, soft yellow with tiny embroidered daisies. Mom, she whispered, tugging my sleeve, is that your name up there? I looked up. A massive banner stretched across the stage. Virginia State Teacher of the Year 2024, Ingrid Fairbanks Webb, my name 50 feet wide, impossible to ignore. I squeezed Lily's hand. Yeah, sweetheart, that's my name. Behind me, I could feel eyes on my back, the prickling sensation of being watched. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. I already knew who was sitting in the second row, uninvited and undeterred, waiting for a spotlight that would never shine on them. I heard them before I saw them. Excuse me, that's my daughter up there. Yes, the honoree. I need to be in the family section. My mother's voice carried across the chamber with practiced authority. The same tone she used to command waiters, silence dinner parties, convince strangers she belonged wherever she stood. I kept my eyes forward. Breathe. Just breathe. From my peripheral vision, I watched them arrive like a delegation. My mother in cream Chanel, pearls at her throat. Victoria in that red Valentino dress she'd mentioned, cinched waist, dramatic neckline, camera ready. Bradley in Tom Ford charcoal, his wife Carolyn trailing behind in Oscar de la Renta. They swept into the second row directly behind us, and I heard my mother's stage whisper to the woman beside her. I'm Margaret Fairbanks, Ingrid's mother. I raised that girl from the day she was born. Everything she is, she owes to me. The woman nodded politely, glancing at the banner, then back at my mother. Victoria leaned forward, close enough that I could smell her perfume. Ingrid, you look well. I didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge her. A hand touched my shoulder. Aren't you going to say hello to your family? Bradley's voice, casual, entitled. I turned my head just slightly. Not enough to face them, just enough to be heard. My family is sitting right next to me. Then I turned back to the stage, Lily's small hand warm in mine. Want to know what happened when I gave my speech? When my mother heard me thank everyone in my life except her. I promise you, you won't guess her reaction. If you're still with me, tap that like button and stay. The next 3 minutes are the reason I'm telling you this story. Dr. Alina Hart walked to the podium with the same quiet authority she'd carried into every classroom, every board meeting, every difficult conversation for the past 3 decades. She adjusted the microphone, surveyed the room, and began. In 15 years of working in Virginia's education system, I've had the privilege of meeting thousands of extraordinary teachers. But today, I want to tell you about one who stands apart. I felt my mother shift in her seat behind me, adjusting her pearls, preparing her proud expression for the cameras. Ingrid Fairbanks Webb started her career in a rural elementary school with 23 students, limited resources, and unlimited determination. Alina's voice was steady, warm. In her first year alone, she raised reading levels by an average of 2 grade levels per student. Not through magic, through showing up every single day. She paused, letting the words settle. Ingrid didn't come from a background that made her path easy. She didn't have connections or privilege handed to her on a silver platter. A slight emphasis on those words. Was I imagining it? She built everything herself, her master's degree while teaching full-time, her mentorship program that's now being adopted in 37 counties across the state, her family, my breath caught, which I have the honor of introducing now. Her husband Marcus, who has served on the Clark County School Board for 6 years, and her daughter Lily, who told me backstage that her mom is the best teacher in the whole wide world. The camera panned to Marcus and Lily. Not to my mother, not to Victoria in her red dress. To the family that mattered. Behind me, I heard a sharp intake of breath. The creak of a chair as someone gripped the armrest too tight. Alina smiled. Please welcome your 2024 Virginia State Teacher of the Year, Ingrid Fairbanks Webb. I walked to the podium on legs that felt steadier than I expected. 500 faces looked up at me. Cameras recorded every breath, and in the second row, 4 people in designer clothes waited for the acknowledgement they believed they deserved. Thank you, Dr. Hart, I began. And thank you to the Virginia Department of Education, the governor's office, and everyone who made today possible. I looked out at the audience, the real audience. Teachers who spent their weekends grading papers. Principals who stayed late to counsel struggling students. Educators who had chosen this life not for money or status, but because they believed in the power of a child's potential. When I started teaching 15 years ago, I didn't know if I'd last a semester. The hours were long, the pay was modest, and some people, I paused, choosing my words carefully, questioned whether it was a path worth taking. Silence, the kind that vibrates. But here's what I learned. Teaching isn't about proving anything to anyone. It's about showing up for the kids who need you, even when no one else does, especially when no one else does. I took a breath, which brings me to my thank yous, to my colleagues at Maple Creek Elementary. You are my village. To Dr. Hart, who saw something in me when I was just a nervous 22-year-old with a dream. I owe you more than words can say. I turned toward the front row. And to my family, I smiled at Marcus, at Lily, my husband Marcus, who believed in me when I'd stopped believing in myself, my daughter Lily, who reminds me every single day what unconditional love looks like. I stopped. That was the list. Behind me, someone in the second row stood up. Ingrid, my mother's voice. I didn't turn around. Ingrid, sweetheart, surely you didn't forget your own mother. Margaret's voice rang through the chamber, her tone halfway between wounded and commanding, the kind of voice designed to make everyone in the room sympathize with her. The neglected mother overlooked by her ungrateful child. I heard movement behind me, heels clicking against marble. She was walking toward the stage. 500 heads turned, cameras swiveled. The moment stretched like taffy, sticky, and inescapable. My mother reached the bottom of the stage steps, her cream Chanel catching the light, her practiced smile firmly in place. I'd just like to say a few words about my daughter, about how proud I am of everything she's, Mrs. Fairbanks. My voice came out calm, quiet, amplified by the podium microphone for everyone to hear. She stopped mid-sentence, 1 foot on the first step. Thank you for attending, I said, meeting her eyes for the first time in 4 years. But the family portion of my speech has concluded. Her smile flickered just for a second, a hairline crack in the facade. Ingrid, I'm your mother. You said you no longer saw me as your daughter. The words fell like stones into a still pond. 4 years ago, in a group message, you said I chose to be a lowly teacher and that I was no longer part of your family. Gasps rippled through the audience, a murmur of voices. Someone dropped a program. I've simply honored your decision, I continued evenly. The family I thank today is the family that stood by me, the family that didn't require me to prove my worth through a job title or a salary. A security guard approached Margaret gently, gesturing back toward her seat. She stood frozen, not moving forward, not retreating. For the first time in my life, my mother had nothing to say. The silence lasted exactly 4 seconds. Then, from somewhere in the middle of the chamber, a woman stood up, gray-haired, mid-60s, wearing a simple cardigan and glasses that had seen thousands of classrooms. She started clapping, slow, deliberate, unmistakable. Another person stood, then 5, then 20. The applause built like a wave, rolling through the chamber until every single educator in that room was on their feet. 500 people giving me something my own mother never had: validation without conditions. I gripped the edges of the podium, my eyes burning. The security guard gently guided Margaret back to her seat. She walked stiffly, mechanically, her perfect posture crumbling with each step. Victoria reached for her arm, whispering something urgent, but Margaret shook her off. I caught fragments of conversations from nearby rows. Did you hear what she said? Her own mother disowned her for being a teacher. That's disgusting. So that's the woman who called her a lowly teacher. Can you imagine? The story was spreading through the room like wildfire. Every whisper, another nail in the coffin of my mother's carefully constructed reputation. When the applause finally subsided and people took their seats, I saw Margaret sitting rigidly in her chair, staring straight ahead. Her cream Chanel suddenly looked too bright, too trying, too hard. Victoria was furiously typing on her phone. Bradley's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscles working from the stage. And in the front row, Lily was looking up at me with shining eyes. "You did it, Mom," she whispered, too quiet for anyone else to hear, but I read her lips perfectly. I smiled at her. Just her. The rest of the audience faded into background noise. My family was proud of me. That was all that mattered. They cornered me in the hallway outside the chamber. I'd just finished taking photos with the governor, a kind man with a firm handshake who told me my speech was the most honest thing he'd heard in that building in 20 years when I saw them approaching. My mother, flanked by Victoria and Bradley, moving through the crowd with the determination of people who believed they were owed an explanation. "Ingrid." My mother's voice was low now, stripped of its performance quality. "We need to talk privately." I kept my tone pleasant, professional. "If you have something to say, Mrs. Fairbanks, you can say it here." Her eyes flickered to the people around us, other honorees, their families, a journalist scribbling notes. "You humiliated me in front of everyone on television." I stated a fact. I pulled out my phone, unlocked it, and held up the screenshot that had lived in my camera roll for 4 years. "This is the message you sent on May 9th, 2020. I no longer see her as my daughter. Your words, your decision. I simply honored it." My mother's face went pale. I was upset. You know how things get taken out of context. Context. I showed her the timestamp, the sender ID, the heart emoji from Victoria, the understood mom from Bradley. This was a group message telling everyone in our family to pretend I didn't exist. There's no other context. Bradley stepped forward. "Ingrid, let's be reasonable." I was reasonable for 30 years. My voice stayed calm. I was reasonable when you seated me at the children's table. Reasonable when Mom forgot my graduation. Reasonable when you all decided my career made me disposable. I tucked my phone away. "I'm done being reasonable." Victoria's mask cracked first. "This is ridiculous," she hissed, her red Valentino dress suddenly looking garish under the fluorescent hallway lights. "We came here to support you. We rearranged our entire schedules. You came here for a photo op." I kept my voice level. "I read your messages, Victoria. Should I bring flowers? That's not support." "That's staging," her face flushed. Who showed you that? It doesn't matter how I know. It matters that you all plan to show up at my ceremony, sit in my family section, and take credit for a success you spent 4 years ignoring. Bradley tried a different approach. His lawyer voice, calm, reasonable, the tone he used to negotiate settlements. "Ingrid, think about this from a PR perspective. The video's going viral. People are calling Mom what she is. You're making this worse for everyone. For the family name, I haven't had that name in 2 years. I held up my hand, showing the simple gold band Marcus had placed there. "I'm a Webb now. And funny thing about family names, they only mean something if the family behind them is real." Victoria stepped closer, her voice dropping to a fierce whisper. "You think you're better than us, don't you? Just because you got some award." No, I met her eyes. "I think I'm exactly what I've always been, a teacher. The same teacher you called lowly. The same teacher Mom was embarrassed to mention at her country club." I turned to look at all 3 of them. "I didn't become better than you. You decided I wasn't good enough and I stopped trying to change your minds. Behind me, I heard Marcus's steady footsteps. Lily's small hand found mine. Ready to go home, he asked. More than ready. I turned to face my mother one last time. She looked smaller somehow. The cream Chanel hung differently now. The pearls seemed less polished. 4 years of careful reputation building, undone in 3 minutes on a stage she'd never been invited to share. Mrs. Fairbanks, I said quietly, quiet enough that only she could hear. 4 years ago, you made a choice. You chose your image over your daughter. You chose the opinions of women at a country club over a child who loved you. Her lip trembled. The first crack in her armor I'd ever seen. I could hate you for that, I continued. I spent a lot of nights thinking I should, but here's what I realized. Hating you would mean you still controlled my life. And you don't, not anymore. Ingrid, I'm not asking you to apologize. I don't need your apology to be happy. I've been happy for 2 years without it. I took a breath, but I want you to understand something. I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing this because I finally learned the difference between forgiveness and self-respect. I turned to Victoria. You asked if I think I'm better than you. I don't. I just think I deserve to be loved without conditions. And I found that somewhere else. To Bradley, you were worried about the family name, but names are just words. Family is showing up. You didn't show up for 4 years. You don't get to start now. I stepped back, Marcus's hand warm on my lower back. Lily pressed against my side. Goodbye, Mrs. Fairbanks, Victoria, Bradley, I nodded once. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, but you won't find it with me. We walked out the doors without looking back. The fallout didn't happen overnight. It crept in slowly, like water through foundation cracks. Rachel called me a month after the ceremony with updates I hadn't asked for, but somehow needed to hear. Your mom resigned from the country club's social committee, she said she needed to focus on family matters. But everyone knows the real reason. Women were asking her questions she couldn't answer about you, about the speech, about what kind of mother disowns a daughter for being a teacher. I stirred my coffee, watching the cream swirl. And Victoria? She deleted all her family Instagram posts. Every single one. Someone in the comments of her practice page asked if she was the sister who sent a heart emoji when her mom disowned her sibling. Rachel laughed bitterly. Apparently, patients don't love knowing their plastic surgeon has a heart emoji to family cruelty response time of 30 seconds. Bradley had gone silent entirely. According to Rachel, he told their Aunt Patricia that the whole situation had been blown out of proportion and that he'd prefer not to discuss it. The professional class had its ways of punishing social missteps. No one was boycotting Victoria's practice or refusing to hire Bradley's firm, but there were whispers, side eyes at networking events, the subtle distancing that happened when people realized someone's shiny surface hid something rotten underneath. Your mom seeing a therapist, Rachel added quietly. She told Aunt Patricia she wants to understand what went wrong. I set down my mug. Good for her. You don't want to know more? Maybe she's actually changing. Maybe she is. I looked out the window at the oak tree in our backyard, the one where Marcus and I had exchanged vows, but her changing doesn't change what happened. And it doesn't obligate me to go back. 6 months later, I learned what peace actually feels like. Not the absence of noise. Our farmhouse was never quiet. Lily practiced piano in the living room, the keys stumbling over Feur-Elise with determined imperfection. Marcus argued with the tractor in the barn, convinced it understood his lectures about fuel efficiency. The chickens had opinions about everything. But underneath all that noise, stillness, the kind that comes from knowing exactly where you belong, I was still superintendent. The job was hard, budget meetings, personnel conflicts, the endless paperwork of running 12 schools. But every morning when I walked into my office, I saw Lily's crayon drawing pinned above my desk. 3 stick figures, yellow sun, my mom, my dad, me. That was my daily reminder of what success actually looked like. On our 3rd wedding anniversary, Marcus and I had another picnic under the oak tree. Lily helped set up the blanket, spreading out plates of cold fried chicken and Marcus's mother's famous biscuits. The evening light turned everything gold. Someone from a publishing house called last week, Marcus mentioned casually, handing me a glass of lemonade. They want you to write a book about your career, your journey, all of it. I shook my head before he finished. I don't want to live in the past. Even if it could help other people, other teachers who have been made to feel small. I thought about it, really thought about it. If I ever tell this story publicly, I said finally it'll be on my terms. Not for revenge, not for profit. Just to let someone else know they're not alone. Lily crawled into my lap, smelling like grass and sunshine. Tell me a story, Mom. I kissed the top of her head. Once upon a time, there was a teacher who found her family. The letter arrived on a Tuesday in October, almost exactly 1 year after the ceremony. No return address on the envelope, just my name written in handwriting I recognized immediately. The careful cursive my mother had always prided herself on. The elegant loops she'd spent years perfecting at charm school in the 1970s. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time just holding the envelope. Marcus came in from the barn, saw what I was holding, and sat down across from me without a word. "You don't have to open it," he said. "I know, I opened it anyway." The letter was 2 pages, handwritten on her personalized stationery, the cream cardstock with her initials embossed in gold. "Ingrid, I've written this letter 47 times. Each time I tried to explain, to justify, to make you understand why I did what I did. But the truth is simpler and uglier than any explanation I could give. I was afraid of what people would think, afraid of being judged, afraid that your choices somehow reflected failures in me. I don't expect you to forgive me. I haven't even forgiven myself. I just want you to know I was wrong, not upset or taken out of context, wrong, and I'm sorry for every day you spent believing you weren't enough. You don't owe me a response. You don't owe me anything. But if you ever want to talk, not reconcile, just talk, I'll be here. Your mother, even if that word doesn't mean to you what it should." I read it twice. Then I folded it carefully and put it in the kitchen drawer. "What are you going to do?" Marcus asked. "I don't know." I looked out at the oak tree, its leaves turning amber in the autumn light. "But for the first time, I think I don't need to know yet. You know what kept me awake for months after all of this? Not anger, not even sadness. It was one question. Why? Why would a mother erase her own child? What kind of person looks at their daughter and sees a liability? I spent a lot of time reading about this, talking to a therapist friend, trying to understand, not to forgive, but to stop carrying the weight of confusion. Here's what I learned about people like my mother. Margaret Fairbanks grew up in a family where love was transactional. Her own parents praised her when she achieved and withdrew when she didn't. She learned early that worth equals performance, that you earn your place at the table, literally. By the time she had children of her own, she didn't know any other way to love. When Victoria became a surgeon and Bradley became a lawyer, my mother wasn't just proud, she was relieved. Their success proved she was a good mother. Their achievements were her achievements. Their status protected her from the shame she'd carried since childhood. And then there was me, the daughter who chose meaning over money, who picked a lowly profession that made Margaret feel exposed. Every time someone asked about her kids, she had to explain me. An explanation felt like failure. So she did what scared people do. She cut out the part that hurt. It doesn't excuse her. Nothing excuses abandoning your child. But understanding this helped me realize something important. Her rejection was never about my worth. It was about her wounds. And here's the thing I want you to hear. If you've ever been in my shoes, you are not responsible for healing people who hurt you. You can understand them without excusing them. You can have compassion without giving them access to your life. Boundaries aren't walls built from anger. They're doors you get to control. If this story resonated with you, I have a question. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting your peace? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, check the video linked in the description. I think you'll find something that speaks to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I'm Ingrid, and I finally know what family really means.